I'm sure people will continue to drift in, but time is very precious, so we're just going to jump right in and get started. First, I'd like to say hello to everybody. My name is Katie Litterer. I am a Beverly parent. I'm also the current Citywide PTO president. On behalf of all of us at Citywide, we'd like to do two things. We'd like to welcome you all, and we'd like to thank you sincerely for taking the time out of your busy lives to come and get educated about such an important topic. And like I said, time is precious, so I'm going to jump into introducing our guest speaker. Joanie Geltman has over 30 years of experience working with parents, children, schools, and community groups. She is a clinician, parenting coach, college professor, and public speaker who has delivered her parenting seminars to hundreds of schools and businesses. Joanie's style features a unique brand of infotainment in which she uses both humor and storytelling to deliver her messages. She also sends parents home with what she likes to call a goodie bag of helpful techniques. Joanie is a go-to media consultant for television, radio, and print. Both on and off the camera, she provides the most up-to-date information and commentary on parenting strategies and teen behavior. On top of all of that, Joanie is also an author. She's written 2 books, the first of which is titled I Get It, 3 Magic Words for Parents of Teens, and that's actually going to be available after the seminar out in the hallway if you're interested. Her new book, A Survival Guide to Parenting Teens, talking to your kids about sexting, drinking, drugs, and other things that freak you out, will be released on May 1st of this year. Both of Joanie's book titles, along with when, where, and how you can get those if you're interested, are listed on the first page of your parent handout tonight. And with that, we're happy to welcome Joanie Geltman to Beverly this evening.
Wow. Thank you. That was the best intro I've ever had. That was great. Thank you. Just another bookkeeping. I do a parenting blog, and it's on the card or flyers that are on the food table. And I write 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I have over 500 tips on that blog, ranging from helping your kid to clean up their messy room, to attitude, to sexting, for anything that you could imagine is on there. However, the book will have it all in one place, and it's 80 tips. It's like a Hints for Heloise. That's what the book is. It's what you need when you need it. And I am doing a book reading and signing at the North Shore Barnes & Noble on some date, which is out there on a flyer. I can't remember which one, but I would love to have you come. More the merrier. We'll have a good time. I'll do some readings from the book and take questions and give you a little background. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts. So I hope you're ready to talk dirty tonight, because we're going to get right down into it. I don't use the words inappropriate language. I use the real deal. I want you to hear what it sounds like, the kind of language that your kids are using. I want you to hear what it sounds like so that they can hear it from you. I think a lot of what happens with the kids' use of social networking and sexting and texting is it is a one-sided conversation. And they're not saying things to people's faces. They're not taking their clothes off in front of people. They're doing it, one-sided. And so they never really get to understand and feel what those words sound like and how they make other people feel. And so just be prepared. That's all I'm saying, okay? Close your ears if it gets too dirty for you. But okay, so let's just get right to it. I hope that by the time you walk out of here tonight, you will have some very concrete interventions. It is kind of an intervention. I was thinking about it the other day, and I realized that I think that kids' use of technology is going to be a new diagnosis in the DSM-3, which is what you go to when you're diagnosing a patient. It's going to be a new obsessive-compulsive disorder. And I'm sort of joking about it, but not really. And I think that you are the people that are in control of making sure that that does not happen. And for those of you who are in middle school, you have way more control than you think you have. And in high school, you still have it. It's not like it doesn't go away. The buck does stop with you, and it's just it's time for you to kind of pick up and feel your own power. So I do like to start with sort of how we got to this place, because I think it's always good to have a framework. this is probably even a little low now, because this was before Instagram. I mean, this is just texting. Let's just not forget Twitter and Instagram, forget Facebook, Snapchat, all the other sites that your kids are spending unbelievable amounts of time on. Because they're not just posting on one site, they're posting on multiple sites, then they have to respond to somebody else's post, and then they have to respond to the post that's on somebody else's post. I mean, we're talking hours and hours of time. Texting now probably takes up the least amount of time, but we're talking, average 2,200 a month. I've had parents who, when I've told them, just for the fun of it, go and look at your phone bill and take a look at how many texts your kids are sending a month. And I've had parents say 10,000, 13,000 a month. So when, if you break that down into 60 minutes into 22,000, 13,000, that's a lot of time. And I'm going to tell you how to do that, because this is part of what you need to be teaching to your kids. Teens are spending, this is a new statistic, an average of 7 hours. If you put it all together, 7 hours. I mean, that's like they're in school for 6. And then they're at home for 7, and there you have it. That's their day. Then they're in bed, and they're using it. So we are creating kids with some major addictions here. And so this is, I'm, as you can hear, very passionate about this whole issue, and hoping that we can, that we can do get some help. So how did we get here? We got here because we all jumped into the pool at the same time. When you were a teenager, you dealt with drugs, sex, and rock and roll. I mean, maybe you weren't doing it. Maybe you weren't drinking it. Maybe you weren't smoking it. But you were around it, and you knew that it was there. And, again, maybe you weren't having sex, but some of your friends were having sex. So you knew it was out there. You experienced it firsthand as a teenager. So that when you are talking to your kids about these also hard issues of adolescence, at least you know where you're coming from, right? Maybe you were like a wild child yourself, and now you're like, hey, listen, I've been there. So you get a sense of what that is. But as teenagers, you guys did not have access to technology. And so that when all this technology came out, and as adults, we're kids in the candy store, we're excited too. Oh my God, let's get the latest and newest device. Our kids were experiencing it at the same time as you were experiencing it. And you are experiencing it through an adult brain, but they are experiencing it through a teen brain. And it is absolutely not the same. So let's talk about the developmental impulses. Let me just see what the next slide is. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is that the teen brain is different than the adult brain. And I think it's important to understand why, because it will feed into what these developmental impulses are. There was an interesting research study where they took a group of adults and a group of teens, and they were going to show them pictures of human faces that were showing emotion. And they wanted to have the adults and the teens label those emotions while they were in an MRI scanner, so they could see what part of the brain was going to be activated. So when they did this experiment, this was one of the faces. Okay? That's supposed to be fear and shock. When the adults were put in the scanners and asked to label, they labeled correctly all the human faces, which they expected. And the part of the brain that was activated in that labeling emotion process was the frontal cortex, the thinking part of the brain. That's exactly what the psychologists thought they would find. And they also assumed that the teen brain would activate in the exact same place. So when they showed the pictures of these human faces to the teens, they mislabeled every face, okay? And that face I showed you, they labeled as angry, okay? So they literally are misreading emotion. And the reason that is the part of the brain that was in activation was not the frontal cortex. And again, this is just into adolescence. This changes. But it was the amygdala, which is the emotional center of the brain. So literally, you live in a thinking brain. Your teens are living in an emotional brain. I call it the awesome brain, okay? So what happens is that they feel something before they think something. And so all the times that you're thinking, you might even say this out loud to your teen, they did something that was just mind-boggling, stupid, ridiculous, you might go, oh my God, what were you thinking? Not thinking. Not thinking. They are feeling. They are caught up in the emotion of something. And that's why the whole issue of social networking and smartphones has become such a hot issue, because they get caught up in moments. Oh my God, it'd be so fun. It'd be so fun to take a naked picture. Then we'll send it. Or, I mean, they're not thinking, oh, if I say this, and then the person does this, and, that's something they don't do. That's what we call sequential thinking, okay? They don't think things through naturally. That doesn't mean they can't do it, and their brain is capable of doing it. But when it's something that has a high emotional value to it, whether it's drama or excitement, that's where they're going to go to. And so that's why we need to help them strategize and counteract this awesomeness, that they're always feeling, okay? So let's first talk about what these developmental impulses, what I'm talking about. So there's something that David Elkind, who's a psychologist from Tufts, calls the imaginary audience. This is the hyper self-consciousness that exists in adolescence. Now, this is new. This is a new brain change. The number of new brain connections that occur in adolescence is equal to the number of new brain connections that happen in the first 18 months of life. So think about the amount of change that happens from that newborn, mushy, adorable baby to 18 months. They go from being 100% dependent on other people to take care of them to, in 18 months, they have a personality, they're walking, they're talking, they have very clear things they like, things they don't like, they can move from place to place in their own, so that's a huge amount of growth. And that amount of brain growth is occurring in your teens right now, okay? And it continues, so it starts around, whenever your kid starts, it's different for all kids, maybe 10 or 11, and then goes right up through 22, 23. So it lasts a long time. But the good news, here's the good news. The good news is the amount of time you have with your children in life, adolescent years are the smallest part of it. That's the good news. You may feel like the longest 7 years of your life, but you'll have many more years when they won't be teenagers and you'll be enjoying them. So keep right. So keep some perspective, and just know that I can do anything for 7 years. If you had to do it for 40 years, that'd be another thing. But for 7, you can do it. Okay. So one of these brain changes is this sense of hyper self-consciousness. So when your kids are in elementary school, the way they define themselves is by how they sort of measure up to other kids. I'm the fastest runner, I'm the best artist, I got the highest grade on the spelling test, right? That's developmentally where they are. This is where I fit in amongst my peers, okay? But the new level of thinking that happens in adolescence is, so in elementary school, you might get everybody else has a phone, I want one too. Okay, that would be sort of the full court press that you'd get from your 8-year-old, or your 9-year-old. Everybody else has a phone. I want a phone too. Okay, so that would be the 8 or 9-year-old version. The adolescent version of that is everybody else has a cell phone, and I feel like a loser, and everybody else thinks I'm a loser because I don't have one. Okay, so that's now they have this understanding that there's this whole audience of people out there. And that audience of people are thinking things about me. And that's brand new, okay? And that is in the driver's seat of all social networking. Because think of what social networking is. It is to perform for your audience. Even those of us who still are using Facebook, I want to be funny when I'm on there. I want people to read, or see a picture that I put up and think, oh, isn't she so funny? Oh, she looks so pretty today. But it doesn't ruin my day. I don't spend my whole life thinking about it. But your teens actually do. Okay? So everything they're doing on social networking is about what they think everybody else is going to think about them if they do it. So here's an example. Here's how social networking can get out of hand in terms of things like bullying. So there was I think this was in New Jersey last year. There was a news story. And the story was that a couple of girls who were pissed off at a few teachers decided that they were going to have an attack the teacher day. Okay? I mean, they weren't really going to have it. This was a virtual attack a teacher day. Okay? So they were on Facebook, and they announced to all their hundreds and thousands of friends that all go to their school, let's have an attack a teacher day. And so what happened is everybody tried to outrageous each other in terms of how they were going to, maim and damage their teachers. They weren't going to do it. Okay, this wasn't a real threat. Who cares? But what it was a one-upsmanship. Oh, you think putting Clorox in their water bottle? Oh, I'll put razors in their apples. They literally were writing things like this. Okay, why were someone going to really put a razor in there? No, these were nice kids. Believe it or not, these were nice kids. What happened? This imaginary audience was in the driver's seat. Okay? I'm going to write something way more outrageous than the next person. And so they get caught up in that emotional brain. Oh my God, it'll be so fun. Let's have this attack a teacher. It'll be so fun. Okay? And they get carried away because if they did actually sit down and think, my God, because the teachers didn't think it was all that funny. A parent who monitored their kids' Facebook saw it. Kids were, promptly brought into the principal's office. They were suspended. There was, I don't think they ended up going to the court case. And of course, what did every single kid say? I was just kidding. Okay? I was just kidding. Were these bad kids? These were good students. These were lovely kids who came from lovely families like yours. They got caught up in a moment because of this emotional brain. And because this imaginary audience, oh my God, people will think I'm so funny if I fill in the blank. There was another story like this. This happened in a town in Massachusetts, and I ended up working with one of the moms of one of these kids. This happened where a kid was a kid who's got some, he's kind of an awkward kid. I'm sure he's a lovely boy. Maybe he was overweight. He was very awkward. He was one of those awkward kids that's a target, that could easily be a target. He was sitting in his library, his middle school library. It was in middle school. He was sitting in the middle school library, and he was just at a study carrel, minding his own business, doing his work. Some kid came in with the phone and thought, I'm going to take a picture of this kid. He didn't know. He was, had his head in a book. He was minding his own business. So somebody took a picture of that boy and then wrote some kind of funny comment. Okay? Same exact thing happened. As soon as that picture went out, some kids didn't even know who this boy was. This was so not personal to this boy, okay? Had nothing to do with the kid. Most of the kids had never even talked to the kid, didn't even know his name. But once that got out there, this part of the brain, oh my God, so the first guy was, oh my God, look how funny this is. I'm going to take a picture of this kid. I'm going to write something really funny. Everyone will think I'm so funny. And then everyone jumped on the train. Many kids jumped on that train, okay? And again, a savvy parent found it and brought it to the attention of the principal. All the kids were called in. All the kids were suspended. And when this mom called me, she was devastated. Devastated. She said, I've taught my kid better than this. I've taught my kid it's not. So what I want you to hear from these stories is this isn't about the bad kids. This is about kids with a highly charged emotional brain that are concerned very, very deeply about what other people think about them, and then go to town. Last story as an example. I'm driving this point home for you, okay? But they're good stories. This happened in a town in Massachusetts. This was a story of this was a teacher who was a first-year teacher. She was a high school teacher. She was a first-year teacher, kind of green, didn't have good control of the class. She was kind of finding her way. And the kids the kids got her number. They knew that, that she was, that it didn't take much to get her to fly off the handle because she was overwhelmed in the classroom. She, was new and trying to figure it out. And so some kid had a smartphone in class, which all kids, now this was before everyone had smartphones, but now everybody does. But so a kid, one of the kids in the class took out his phone They got the teacher all riled up, and they took a video of her, losing control in the classroom, screaming at the kids, whatever she was doing, this poor teacher, okay? Then that kid forwarded that video to another girl, friend of his, and then it went viral, okay? Then it went viral, and it went all over the high school. Again, a savvy parent found it, and the phones were confiscated. The kids were arrested this time. These are stories, by the way, I want you to tell your kids. That's why I'm telling you, okay? Because if you just say it's not appropriate for you to be doing these things, the eyes will roll back in their heads, and that'll be the end of the story. So when you tell the story, be dramatic about it. Use a dramatic voice, it's like stand-up, really. If you want to entertain your kids, you got to entertain your kids. You're going to go, oh my, and you're not going to say, I was at a parenting by the way. You're not going to say, you were at a parenting meeting tonight, and the parenting lady told us all these stories. Because that will be the kiss of death, okay? That will be the kiss of death. What you're going to do is you're going to say, oh my, you're going to spread these out, okay? And you're going to come home from work one day, and you're going to be sitting, or from the gym one day, and you're going to say, oh my God, I was in spinning class, and this woman just told me the story, okay? That's how you're going to do it, okay? And you're going to present it as if, do I have a story for you? Not like, I'm telling you the story because I want to teach you a lesson about your cell phones. And that again, you have to tell it like you think it's the most amazing story you ever heard. Okay, story number 3. Oh, so that was the story. So they got arrested. That was the story number 3. Okay, so the kids got arrested. I don't know, I never heard but I did talk to one of the fathers of the girl. And again, this was a lovely man, and it was a lovely family. And he just could not get how this could happen. They've taught their kids values. They know about kindness. They know about bullying. They had a million. So here's what ends up happening. Your kids get in situations they've never been in before. Remember that adolescence is a stage of firsts, right? And they've got new freedoms, and they have new phones, and they're excited about things they've never been excited about, having to do with sex and their body and feelings. And so they're on fire, okay? They're on fire, and so so then you get all these kids in groups. And then, no one's really had conversations. They might say, if I ever find out, you might have had this conversation. If I ever find out that you send a sexy picture, or I find out that you have bad language in your phone, or if I find out you bullied a kid, I'm taking that phone away from you, okay? That's not helpful to them in the moment when kids actually are in the situation. So the conversations happen first. So you tell stories like this, and you say, I get you could potentially be in a situation like that. I get how that might happen. Rather than criticizing them and judging them and saying, if I ever find out you did that, you're in big trouble, mister. So then is there an opening there for them to come and talk to you? I don't think so. So what you want to say is, I get, now you don't say, I just found out about this imaginary audience, and you're being driven by the emotions in your brain. But what you're going to say is, I get you're in situations sometimes with your friends, and it's really hard when everybody wants to do something. You might not want to do that, but get caught up in that moment. I totally understand how that could happen. That's a conversation opener, okay? Because what you're saying is, I accept the fact that kids do these things. I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying, oh, well, of course they do. You're saying, but I want to make sure that when that happens to you, you feel like you got a strategy. So, it may be that you say, my parents have my phone blocked, and and hopefully your kids' phones will be blocked. But, things that are going on in all the sites, which I'll talk about in a little bit, that you're going to say, first you're going to open the conversation. I get this kind of stuff is going to happen. You might be at a sleepover sometime, and kids are going to want to start, bullying some other kid, or, some girl going out with your boyfriend, and you're pissed off, and so you're going to start wanting to post some bad things about her. But, honey, I get that you might get caught up in that. I totally do. It's revenge is sweet. I understand. But it could get you in a lot of trouble. and let's figure out what you could do instead. Maybe you just go in the bathroom and say you got diarrhea and you can't leave, and so you absent yourself from the setting. Or you text me and you leave me just a word, pink. When I get that word pink, I know I should come and get you and say there's a family emergency, I have to pick you up. So you acknowledge with them that you get these things can happen and you want to help them in the situation. Because if you don't have the information beforehand, you can't, if you haven't let them know that you get these things are out there. Because if you have an impression of your child, my child would never. And that happens a lot, right? Because when we hear these stories, we go, my kid would never do that. Never, 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 never. And there was a great show that was on NBC a couple of years ago called Not My Kid. And they, did you see the show? It was an amazing show. And it was about bullying. And so they set up, they had sort of girl situations and boy situations. And they had the parents of these kids sitting in a room with a one-way mirror. And they were setting up bullying situations with actors. So the actors, one actor played the victim and one actor played the bully. And one of the things was like a basketball clinic for the boys, and it was like a shopping, modeling, I don't know, some sort of shopping thing for the girls. Not too stereotyped. But, so they asked the parents before they set up the situation, what do you think your kid would do? Do you think when this situation starts, would your kid, be the one to step in and stop it? Because, they were harsh. They set these things up. They were bad. They said really, really terrible things. But again, they were actors. And every single parent said, oh yeah, we've had many conversations about bullying, and my kids would never do this. And this was both for the boys and for the girls. And when each of these scenarios happened, there were maybe 12 or 15 kids in each of these groups with the bully and the victim. And only one, you could see they were like deers in headlights. I watched their faces. Do you remember this? You just watched their faces, and you could see them going, I know I should say something. I know I should say something. I know I should say something. But I really can't. Why can't they? Because of that imaginary audience. Because they're worried that if they step in, what is the bully person going to think of them? And then maybe the bully person will turn on them. And so it's not enough to say bullying is bad, you shouldn't bully. It's like, let's figure out when you're in a situation and your kids want to badmouth a friend, some girl that you know or some boy that you know, let's think about what you can do. They may not be able to say, this is wrong, don't do this. That's hard. That's really hard to take a moral stand when you're an adolescent, because they are very, very vulnerable at this age. And they may not be able, and that's nothing bad about them. It's not like a characterological flaw. They just can't do it yet. They don't have the confidence to stand up, but they also at least might absent them from it, which, or give them some other strategies like, get some friends together and do it together. But the message is, it's everybody's kid is a potential doer of things that you don't like. Okay? Even though you've taught them well and your values have been very clear all along, in that moment, your value is nowhere in their head. It's like, oh my God! They're in an oh my God place. Okay? So that's the imaginary audience. That's part of what drives all the social networking stuff, because it is all about what other kids think about them on their posts. That's all. That is the only reason people do it. It's not really to stay in touch with old friends. Okay? The friends aren't old enough yet to be in touch with. Okay, personal fable. This is that sense of invincibility that teens have. And this kind of goes along with this sequential thinking, which is not thinking things through. But most kids have this, this is another term from David Elkind, that the sense of personal invincibility. This is, think back to your own adolescent years. Think about things that you did thinking, oh, my parents will never find out. And in fact, the problem is that with social networking, there are many things that you don't find out because of the way of how much smarter your kids are than you on these social networking sites and on their cell phones. So you may think that you've blocked something up, but they've somehow figured out a way to get around it and do it anyway. So unfortunately, this feeds that sense of invincibility that is, again, very particular to adolescents. So then they actually do feel it. Not only do they think they're invincible, they actually are invincible because there are so many things. So that's why kids need to be monitored on social networking and their text messaging. Although, when we get into apps like Snapchat, which is why I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but Snapchat is now, kids don't even go on Facebook anymore because they know that that's where you are. And so they may actually use Facebook as a total smokescreen. Where they post just the nicest things ever. You look so cute today. Just things that make you pleased as punch as a parent. And then you get lulled into this, oh, they're using Facebook? I don't even need to go on there anymore. They're they don't do anything wrong. Well, because that's not where they're putting all their stuff. Okay? They're using apps like Snapchat, which for texting especially, it disappears in 5 seconds. So where maybe your kids weren't smart enough to delete the text so that when you were going through text and you found them, off on on their phones, now they can offer those up, even though they're not really going to do it, but it sounds good. Maybe they're going to do it, I don't know. But on Snapchat, which is why I'm going to tell you to make sure that's off your kids' phones, is that then they can use that. So many stories that I've gotten recently about kids sneaking out using Snapchat, because again, there's no record, right? So the sexy pictures that kids are using for Snapchat, other kids will take screenshots off. So there is this false sense of safety. Oh, if I send a naked picture, this guy says he's never going to send it to anybody. And most girls even know that they will, but they in their own heads, they use that as their safety net. Oh, he said he's just going to, if I send it on Snapchat, he'll get rid of it, which, that's just one of those, lies. Yeah, I'll call you next week. Remember that when you go dating? Guys, if any of you ever did that, So unfortunately, there is this sort of developmental sense of invincibility that now, with all the opportunity for them to be doing things that are unsafe, they really aren't getting caught. And so then that is a motivator to continue to do more. So that's why it is very important for parents to stay really on top of the stuff, because it can get dangerous. I mean, kids can get arrested. Kids can have pictures be sent around their school. I know there was a recent incident in Beverly. There was a huge incident of that in Walpole just last week. So, it does happen, and that's why these stories are important, because kids do get caught. And you want to make sure that you let them know that you're as smart, even if you aren't, but as smart as they are about social networking and their phones. And then the final thing is this idea of sequential thinking. So sequential thinking is that thinking things through piece. That's frontal cortex stuff, okay? That's that frontal cortex stuff. And so that's the, so what you're hoping is that you'll say, your kid will get that, well, if I put something out there on, on one of these social networking sites, and it's, it's a bullying thing, or it's a picture that's inappropriate, or it's, let's attack a teacher day, something like that. Thinking it through would be, well, but if I put that up and somebody finds it, then I could get caught. And then if I get caught, I could have my phone taken away and I could get arrested. And then if I get arrested, then I'm not going to be able to finish high school. And if I get, that's sequential thinking, okay? That's thinking things through to their logical consequence. But teens don't do that because of this, okay? Once that emotional brain has taken over, and they have no strategy to help them, except if I find out you did X, Y, Z, your phone will be taken away. And that's usually the strategy that most people use, which is, if I find out that you've done X, Y, Z, if I check your phone and I find those things on your phone, I'm taking your phone away, okay? But that doesn't help them when they're in the moment, when somebody has just texted them, when they're in the middle of a conversation where someone's expecting something from them, they're not listening to if you put that on your phone and someone picks up your phone and maybe it's a parent, they're going to call the principal. So here's an example. This is one of my favorite stories ever. So this was a 12-year-old boy, a lovely 12-year-old boy, lovely family, lovely school district, the whole thing. And when the mother called me, she described him as a just a lovely, shy-ish kind of a kid, not immature, but just not into that party. It wasn't meeting the kids at the mall, wasn't going over. He was kind of still with his Legos. Okay, he was kind of a shy kid. Didn't have he wasn't texting a ton, and so the mom was sitting on the couch with him, watching a movie. And he was texting on his phone while they were watching. And she was actually happy about this because she always kind of felt like maybe he was having a little awkwardness with the social stuff, and so that made her happy that he was texting. That was a good sign that maybe he had some more friends, and this was a good thing. So he's texting away, and they're watching a movie sort of, and then he goes in to take a shower. And so while he goes in the shower, she's like, oh, I'm gonna, opportunity, I'm gonna check out, who is he texting? So she sees this from a girl, and, the girl starts off by, hey, what are you doing? What's up? And he writes back, okay, he was sitting next to his mother watching a movie, okay? And the mother, freaked out, so he came out of the shower, and, when she called me, she said, Joanie, I was nauseous, she said. And, so the kid comes out of the shower, and she shows him his phone, and what does he do? He starts to cry, okay? He starts to cry. And, and I said to the mom, here's what I think happened. I think this kid has heard, he's not, he's just sort of beginning to sort of do the social thing, and he's heard that girls like it when you talk dirty. Okay, this is what you're hearing, and this is what maybe his friends are showing phones. Phones get paid. Hey, look at what Joanie wrote to me. And again, that's that imaginary audience. Kids are deliberately outrageous on their phones. Not that they're necessarily going to follow through on this stuff, but that's how they think other kids want them to talk, so that's how they talk. So this kid thinks, oh, she's, this girl must, if she thinks I'm cool, I'm going to have to say, and that's the best he could come up with, so, which I think is so funny. I mean, we haven't used that word anymore, but anyway, so I digress. So, and so then the mother sat him down and said, honey, just like I just looked at your phone, this girl has parents, and she's 12 years old, and her parents could be looking at her phone, and if they see that some boy is writing to their 12-year-old daughter, they are not going to be happy, okay? And they may call the school, they may call, me, this could be, this could be, I mean, it could be. I don't ever know what ended up happening with that, but it could, I don't know how it turned out, but it could have been a bad situation. And I'm telling you, this would have been the kid you least expected this to happen. So that's why it's important to say, yes, my kid, not no, my kid, not my kid, but yes, it could be my kid. And so then that opened a discussion of, what people, do you think they can, and not like that's disgusting. And at first, she did go there first, I have to admit. She did go to the first, she took his phone away, but she went to the punishment place, and that's fine. You need to do a consequence. When you find something that's not, that scares the crap out of you, you got to go for the consequence. But that's just part one. Part two is, let's figure this out, because, you're going to have, you're a cute guy. Girls are going to start texting with you. They might start talking dirty to you. They might start talking dirty to you. So what are you going to do when that happens? And these are the kind of conversations you need to have with your kids. Because the truth of it is, they don't think that what they're saying is bad. And what they'll say is, in this instance of this parent I worked with recently where the girl had sexted full frontal, no head, but, full frontal, and, and all kinds of bad things happened. And when the mother said to her, there was no shame. The girl felt no shame whatsoever. She didn't, and all she kept saying is, everybody does it. It's not that big a deal. And I was watching the news when this whole Walpole story, and they interviewed a lot of the kids, just not kids who were not directly involved, but just kids in the school. And not one kid was aghast. Every single kid, and this is a lovely community, Walpole, every single kid was, Yeah, this happens everywhere. Every kid does it. It's no big deal. What do you, you know, there's no sense of that this is a big deal. And it's because they're getting away with it. People aren't finding it, and the consequences aren't that severe. And so part of it is helping your kids to understand. Yes? I don't think so. I think it gets more damaging the older they get. So I don't think it's something, because now they're, you know, and especially middle school. In some ways, I'm more worried about middle school kids because they are in what I call an as-if teenager mode. Okay? So they're in this place now of wanting to be teenagers. Like they want to, you know, they want to be like the high school kids, but they still got 2-3 years to go. And so they start to mimic what they see as some of those behaviors. And so sometimes what you're, in that moment everybody's doing and it's not going to bother you. But later on when you start to really form an identity, I think it can affect your sexuality. I think it will. We don't know yet because, you know, we're in the forefront. You guys are the pioneers here. But, you know, but I do believe that there will be some other, as they move more into developing a personal identity, it will somehow, I think, have a damaging, I do believe it will have a damaging effect on it. Yes, I do. So the work here is preparing your kid, understanding that it could happen. It could happen that some kid, so here's a story. And this is like not a happy story, so I'm sorry if I don't want to bring it down, but so this is a story I heard about these were two 8th grade girls from completely different towns. And again, every story I'm telling you, this is stories for you to share, okay? So remember them. So these were two girls who were 8th graders, and this is, I tell the story because they were from completely different communities. They happened to end up in 9th grade at the same private school because they had to leave their town. So that's how I heard about it, from the dean of the school that they ended up at. So here's what happened. Both girls were approached by boys. Boys, all of you who have boys are very aggressive now about asking girls. So there's definitely the girl version, which is they think someone's cute or they have a crush on a guy, and they think that if they send them a naked picture or some very suggestive picture, that the boy will like them and become their boyfriend. That's the girl motivation, and it also makes him feel very powerful. I have talked with girls who have gotten involved in situations where their pictures have been sent on. Some of these girls felt like their beauty was their biggest power. Maybe they weren't the greatest students, and they weren't, they kind of felt one down in other areas in their life. Maybe they had, this particular girl I know had a lot of learning disabilities. She never quite felt good enough as a student. But boy, she was gorgeous. She was gorgeous, and the boys gave her a ton of attention, and so sending a naked picture for her was a way of asserting her power. I'm good at something, but people like me for this. So in these two situations, these are just two kind of regular girls who were apparently pretty, and boys were harassing them, saying, "Hey, come on, you're so hot, send me a picture, come on, man, I won't send it to anybody else, come on, And so both girls said no. They started off correctly. No, I'm not going to send you a naked picture. But the boys were motivated. And the boys were like, come on, you're so hot, I promise. I won't send it anywhere else, I promise. And the girls were like, no. And then the boys got frustrated. And it was, again, these were two separate boys from two separate places, same story. Both boys said, well, if you don't send me a naked picture, I'm going to spread a rumor around the school that you've slept with me and all my friends. He was a big athlete in the school. And everyone will think you're a big slut. Okay? So that's the choice that these girls had to make. Slut versus naked picture. I personally would have gone with the slut thing. Okay? That's just me. But, okay, so neither of these girls went to their parents at this point, okay? Neither of these girls went to their parents, and they both sent naked pictures to the boys. The boys sent them on. They were humiliated in their school. They both left school and ended up at this private school. So that was, how that ended up playing out. But more importantly is these girls did not go to their parents. Why did they not go to their parents? How many of you, if your daughter had come to you and said, this boy's pressuring me to send a naked picture. I don't know what to do. How many of you would said, give me that boy's name, I'm going to go shoot them. Or I'm calling the principal, I'm calling the kid's mom. Really, seriously, how many of you would have said that? Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that would have been like a no-brainer, right? I mean, you would have gone right to the principal's office. Okay, that's why your kids aren't telling you, okay? So the message that you need to give, so you use the story that I just told you, and the message is, if that girl had gone to her parents before, okay? Remember, if the naked picture hadn't been taken, there would be nothing to, there would be, if they went to the parents, there's nothing that had happened. So what I would have liked to have happened is that a parent would say to their kid, I know you might be in a position sometime that a boy or a girl, can go in both directions, is going to pressure you to send a picture. I get that could happen. You're pretty, maybe you'll think a boy likes your attention. I get that. It can happen. Rather than, it makes me just feel like you're a disgusting human being. I get that could happen because that's the culture now. We have to acknowledge that. But if you can come to me first, if you can come to me and say, this guy is really pressuring me, I don't know what to do, I won't go to I'm promising you right here, right now, I will not call the principal, I will not call the kid's parents, but I will help you to manage that situation. So maybe, you coach the daughter to say, fine, so call me a slut. Who's going to believe it, that anyone that I would want to go out with you? I mean, you give them, some language, some other way of, or fine, send me a picture. And then I'll send you a picture. You have to go where they're going to go. You can't just say, that really bothers me that you're putting so much pressure on me, you have to talk, you have to speak their language. But you encourage your kids, if you come to me, I will help you. I will not judge you. I will not criticize you. I will understand that this is happening. That's part of this, having this technology out there now. And I want you to be safe. And I want to help you make a decision that I know will be hard. So you're with them in it. You're acknowledging with them that kids can get caught up in this. And it can turn bad fast. And you can use the example of that girl. So that's why it's important to not jump the gun into the problem-solving mode in terms of calling the police. If it's already happened, that's a different story. But you want to encourage them because they can't do this sequential thinking. When this thing goes off, they just aren't thinking that, because those girls, if they were thinking things through, they would have said, this kid's not just going to keep it to himself, he's going to send it to his friends, and then it's going to be all over. That's sequential thinking, okay? They don't do that, okay? So again, I want you to understand that your kids don't do that. It's not your kid. They're not bad kids. It's not that you're a bad parent. It's not that you didn't teach them how to do it. It's that they get caught up in these moments. They have this imaginary fable thing going on. They're worried. That's two of them put together. That's emerging. Okay, that imaginary audience. They feel like they're not going to get caught doing it, and then all hell breaks loose. So it's so important to understand this sort of developmental piece, because then it takes the personal part of it out for you. Because then it can take that, how could my kid possibly do something terrible? When you understand this, it takes that out of the equation, and it's just, I get how that could happen to you, actually, and I get how it might happen to you, and I just want to make you as safe as I can make you. So that's why understanding these developmental impulses are so important. Okay, moving on. Yes? No, their friends aren't going to help because it's sort of like private unless it's like a group shot, right? And when are these kids doing a lot of this stuff? By the way, they're doing it at home in their bedrooms when you've gone to sleep. Okay, this is why there should never be cell phones in the bedrooms. Okay, I'm going to get to the specific tools about what you need, but the fact is, if you stay up and you're using toothpicks to keep your eyes open and you're exhausted and you go to bed at 10 o'clock and your kid's up till 11 and they've got their iPad in their room and their iTouch in their room and their iPhone in their room, all bets are off, because that's when it all happens. That's what that personal, I'll never get caught. My parents are sound asleep. They don't know what I'm doing. And all this stuff is happening right under your own nose. They're not like going to like a motel, You know, and they're not doing it in the school bathroom. They're doing it in their own bathroom mirror or in their bedrooms. You know, so at least that's sexting stuff. So, but there's a lot more going on. Okay. All right. All right. So, all right. So I want to go through all the social networking sites that I know. These are up to date as of, there's a part 2, so don't worry, there's another page of these. So these are the ones that up till today. I mean, this is as updated as I can get it, okay? It is so important for you to be on top of what sites and apps should not be on your teen's phone. And after I get through this list, I'm going to tell you how you can do that. Okay, so let me get down through the list, and so that you at least have this information. You should be going online, no kidding now, at least once a month and Googling new sites teens use. Okay, you should be up to date. You should be as up to date as your kids, because, you know, again, I have 3 of these. Yik Yak, Telegram, Wicker Comfort, I just heard about last week. These things change so fast, and your kids are on it. How they find out about it, I have no idea. But you know, there is a grapevine, and if they have the power to download apps on their phone, they will. And so the biggest, what I hope takeaway tonight is going to teach you how to not let your kids download things on their phones. Okay, Facebook kids do not use anymore. I mean, they're on it, but, you know, it's probably the most harmless of everything that's out there. Okay, so if your kid wants to be on Facebook, go for it. Oh, you can feel like the biggest magnanimous parent. Of course, honey, you want to go on Facebook, because they don't even really use it for much anymore. Okay, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, I would say, are the 3, and Kik, which I'll get to in a second. So everyone knows about Twitter, everyone knows about Instagram. Here's the problem having all of these on a kid's phone. Well, Kik should not be on there. But Twitter and Instagram, I would say, these are going to be the 2 sites that your kids spend the most time on, and that you can monitor. Okay, you can monitor these. The problem with these is the amount of time kids spend on them, because the updating process, remember that 7 hours, is, you know, it's crazy making. Because they send a tweet, then 5 people respond to their tweet, but then they have to go listen to everybody else's tweet, and then they have to respond to those tweets, and then, you know, and Instagram, and then they got to take a picture, and then they got to post it, and then people have got to like their pictures, and then they got to, you know, I mean, they're just time sucks. Okay, I'm not worried about the safety on these things. They are just time sucks. So if you were going to have kids have apps on their phone, I would say Twitter and Instagram, but I'm going to tell you to put some limits on how much they can be on their phones once they get home from school. We'll get to that in a second. But in terms of the safest of the bunch, although kids can send private Twitter messages to each other, which can be like the private message, you know, if you don't have the password into private messages, then things could be going on there that you probably need to know about, because if they're private. Okay, Kik, K-I-K. This is something that kids are linked to on their Instagram. And you'll know if your kid is on it, because on their Instagram, maybe it's Instagram and Twitter, or I always get confused whether it's Instagram and Twitter or just Instagram, so you need to check both. But next to it, I think it's Instagram, next to it will say, next to their profile name, will say Kik me. Okay, and here's why Kik is dangerous. So say we're all at a party. I'm at a party with you guys, okay? And you take a picture of me, and you tag me in that picture, and you put it on your Instagram thing. Or Twitter, whichever one it is, and you can look. I just forgot, which I think it might be both. Okay, so you take a picture of me and you tag me. Now, say you have a friend who's one of your followers on Instagram who lives in, you know, Los Angeles, okay, and he's looking at your tweet or your Instagram feed, and he sees that picture, and he sees a picture of me, and he said, "Ooh, she's hot. That girl's really cute." And then he looks up my name on Instagram, and if I have Kik me next to it, he can contact me privately. And so these are ways that kids are then getting in touch with kids they really don't know, because you could be tagged at a party, some big party, and it's some kid that no one, who knows how they could find you. And I have had parents come to me with kids who have then gotten involved with this person they met through Kik, who they don't even know. They live somewhere else. It's kind of like that. Did anyone ever watch that show? And this is a great show to watch with your kids, by the way, on MTV called Fish. Catfish. Okay, a great show to watch with your kids. So, anyone watch the show? Okay, so Catfish is a show where this guy, people who've been having these online relationships with people they've never met for years. They've never met, they've never talked, half of them, and they believe they're going to marry this person, and they're in love with them. I mean, hearing these stories, you go, oh my God, how could this happen? And then he tracks the person down that they've been having this online relationship with, and then meets them. He takes them, it's like part of the show, it's a reveal, and they all find out at the same time. It's a great show to watch with your kids, because it really does show how much dishonesty can go on these, and your kids will watch it and go, oh my God, I can't believe how stupid she was, for 2 years, and then you might say, I've noticed that you have a lot of people that you don't seem to know. How is that? Then you can use that as kind of a teaching moment about kids who will friend anybody or have followers on their Instagram or Twitter that they don't know. So just Kik it should be an app that they're not allowed to have, and you see it on their Instagram or Twitter, it will say "Kik me." Dangerous, danger. Tumblr is like a blogging site. Again, I don't see that. The kids that I know that are on it, actually, it's sort of like an online journaling kind of a thing. And again, these are just all time sucks. So it's just about how much time how many things your kid is really into. Okay, here are the bad ones: Snapchat and Snap Video. These absolutely should not be allowed on your kid's cell phone, because kids are using, as I said in the beginning, kids are using these sites as a way to be in touch with other kids in a way that you are not going to know, because at least texting, you could, sneaking, or, go and check their text messages every now and then. But now I bet even they've cleaned those up, and that Snapchat is where they're writing the text that they don't think you can find, which you can't, because they disappear in 5 minutes. And these are, or 5 seconds, or whatever it is, these are when kids are sneaking out. They're, they'll use it. I've had parents tell me, I forget what this. I just heard the story the other night where the parent got up in the middle of the night, and the kid was not in the room. This is, again, a regular, lovely, nice parent, and they're, and then they, when they came back to check the phone after they figured out where the kid was, there was nothing on their phone because they had used Snapchat to do it. This is why you don't have phones in your kid's bedroom at night. That's one thing, because that's when the planning happened. But you don't want anything on your kid's phone in which they could be saying things, doing things that could eventually get them in trouble, and they wouldn't even know it, and you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't be able to find them. You wouldn't be able to know, you won't be able to figure out what's going on. And again, parents sometimes look at me and go, you're such a hard ass, You're dealing with a teenage brain here, okay? Remember that you use all your social networking as an adult, but then you look at Anthony Weiner, and you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. You look at other adults. Listen, lots of adults don't seem to be able to help themselves either. Yeah.
So I have a 13-year-old son. I absolutely hate Snapchat, but the horse left the barn.
Nope.
A long time ago.
Nope. I'm going to tell you how to fix it.
All right. Well.
Because I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, you also mentioned just regular text messaging. My son was very clever early on and was deleting his messages.
Yeah.
And he got caught because there was a time when I read a message, but then the next day it was gone, and he denied ever writing it.
See, then he can't text message. Okay, so let me say what you just said about the train left the station, because I was just with a group of, I do these things called Ask the Expert parties, which, by the way, are so much fun. It's just like a group of parents get together. It's like a Tupperware party. It's really a lot of fun. And so I met on Saturday with a group of couples who all have girls the same age and who are all friends. So they wanted to kind of all get on the same page. That was sort of the, because the kids were like, well, nobody else's parents, and once we could get them all to agree on what the limits were going to be, then it would be so much easier, for all the girls. But there was, there was a mom there, a couple of the moms there, and dads said same thing. They said, oh my God, I could never take that off my kid's phone. Okay, that's what they said. Same thing. And I said, it's your phone. Okay, it is your phone. And they can still text. I mean, the fact that he's making a thing about that is very worrisome to me, okay? And that's why that's exactly why kids are doing it, because they are using it to, you don't know because you can't see it, okay? If they didn't have to hide it, they wouldn't. And so, so for kids who are so in love with it, that to me is another sign they shouldn't be on it. And so there are I'm going to teach you how to do this with these new parental controls that just came out literally this week. And, what I say to parents is, just get over it. It's so hard. Yes, your kids are going to be mad at you. I mean, that's the problem, is that we gave the kids everything before we, think about how you learn to drive a car. You learn to drive a car, first you have to read the blue book, and you have to, take the written test. Then you can have your learner's permit. Then you have to sit in the car with an adult for 6 months. Then you can get your license, and then you could only drive by yourself for 6 months. Right? We say that there's it's a graduated method of learning. That's how cell phones should have happened. But unfortunately, because the technology comes so fast and so furious, we as an adult population have been completely caught with our pants down. And that's really what's happened, right? Because we keep thinking that our kids are going to use the same things in the same way that we use them. And they don't, because they're not thinking with an adult brain. They're thinking up here, and they're thinking with a body that's, feeling sex everywhere. I mean, it's just so sexualized. And they're planning on how they're buying their booze, and kids in middle school are buying their booze that way, and they're making plans to meet up in the park and having, you don't want that to happen, and it's about safety. So yes, your kids will get mad, yeah. And this is going to be my best parenting tip of the night. That's all. Okay, it doesn't require even an argument. It doesn't require an argument. You don't have to get defensive. You absolutely don't have to. I mean, if they want to go out and buy their own phone and pay $150 a month and knock themselves out, but I don't see how these kids at 13 have that kind of money. And it's addictive. We are developing a population of kids who are addicted. I teach at Curry College. I've been teaching there for over 20 years. And I have seen such a change in my college students. It's sad. And my colleagues and I spend every lunch hour, it's like if kids are sitting around us, it's like, oh, there they go again. Kids today. And it's not just at Curry. I have friends who teach at Tufts and at Harvard, and this is pretty pervasive through, because these kids have had this technology since they were babies now, and we just kind of gave it to them. It wasn't like I wish that we had thought more strategically and said, okay, kids can have a phone, at 6th grade, but they can only use it. This is my fantasy, for those of you who have 6th graders, that they have nothing on their phone except texting, and their iPads and their iTouches, because they all get thrown into the same thing. And so if you have 6th graders, I'm telling you this now, that they should have it for an hour after school, just like you would parcel out television, or you would parcel out Halloween candy. Okay, it's in the same. It's so funny because these moms that I was with, like all natural food freaks. Oh, we don't let junk food in our house. And it's like, okay, you don't let junk food in your house, but you let your kids, have unlimited access to porn, and I don't. That's just it's nuts. Yeah, but see that?
Ironically.
Yeah.
Ironically. But Snapchat, I don't, and I think many of us don't know the tools.
I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you.
So,
it's never too late.
Knew about it.
Yeah.
Like, fast forward 5 years, parents, then may already
Okay, but I'm teaching you. It's never, I'm just telling you, it's not too late. 13 is not, I mean, if they were a senior in high school, too late.
Because trust me, when we gave him the phone, I would never have allowed him to do it.
Okay, but I'm going to teach you about how to do the apps thing, because this is where, that's the real crux of what I'm going to teach you. But I just want you to know what shouldn't be on there before I teach you how to do it. I know, it's very frustrating. I know, I feel your pain. I just am so glad that my daughter's 31. Okay, so Snapchat, Snap Video, and Vine. That's another one. That's a video site. Same thing. It disappears after 5 seconds. And all you have to do to find out whether your kids have these on their phone is to look at their phone and see what apps they've downloaded. Okay. So those Snapchat, Snap Video, and now Yik Yak is a brand new one. Okay. Here's how Yik Yak works. There was just a big story on this at Marblehead High School. Here's what Yik Yak does, and believe me, your kids will be on this one too. Okay, so Yik Yak is you download it. You do not need to have a profile. You don't have a username, nothing. It's just completely anonymous, the whole thing. You just have it on or you have it off. Okay, once you download it, you either enable it for that day or not. So it's just an on or it's off. So it's a messaging thing again. But the way people get to anybody that's on that is it's built into like a GPS, so that it will pick up anybody who's on that site at that time on a 5 to 10 mile radius. So they originally developed this one for kids on a college campus as hey, there's a great band playing cross campus, come on over. And if everybody had Yik Yak, it didn't matter that it wasn't your followers or people who you were friends with. It was just anybody who happened to have, it's like listening to the radio, basically. It's kind of like a radio, a messaging radio. If you have it on, you will hear what's going on from anybody and anywhere within 5 to 10 miles. So as you can imagine, so at Marblehead High School, there was a bomb scare. And someone at the school said, oh, there's a bomb in the building, and that spread through the building. They had to pull all the kids out. They put all the kids back in, then it happened again. So it was a gamey kind of thing. They had to pull all the kids out. So this was twice in one day. The kids lost class time because somebody on Yik Yak said, oh, there's a bomb in the school. And all the kids, the bomb in the school! So that person, talk about that imaginary audience. Think how reinforcing that was for that person who put that bomb scare on there. Such a terrible lesson that just got learned by those kids, okay? So, because how much attention? It's only going to be used for bullying. That would be the only reason people would use this. It would be like, it's a dangerous site. So that should be a no-no on this. Ask FM, the worst ever. Kids have committed suicide because of Ask FM. If you didn't hear the big story about the girl in Florida. So Ask FM, and I'm sure all your kids know about it, probably have it on their phones. So you have a profile, okay? So I have a profile on my Ask FM site. And then I might ask the question, am I pretty? This has been pretty classic for the girls, okay? Am I pretty? So maybe your best friends will say, oh, you're so pretty. But when you post on somebody else's question, completely anonymous. Okay? So when you post, there is no identifying name to that person. So the way it's mostly used is for just to be the meanest possible bully you can be, because it feeds right into that personal fable. Nobody will know who you are. And so what happened with that girl in Florida is that, she was a middle school kid. She had, some girl said, that she talked to her boyfriend, the drama, okay? Something happened with a boyfriend. And the girls started posting on, you die, drink bleach and die. I mean, they were brutal. And the mom didn't know that her daughter was on Ask FM. Because again, if you don't know to look for, how many of you look at how many apps are in your kid's phone? You'd have to keep going like this for an hour, right? Because they get so many things downloaded. That's the problem. Not to mention all the TV shows and all the, and the movies and the games and the this. No wonder they have no time for homework, right? They're too busy keeping up with all their social networking and their movies and their TVs and their games, okay? So that girl finally committed suicide. She couldn't take it anymore. And, the mother even had moved her to another school, but the girl was a glutton for punishment. And one of the interviews, someone was trying to figure out, well, why would a kid open themselves up to ridicule like that. And what the kids were saying, because they interviewed a lot of kids, what the kids were saying is we'd rather know what people are saying about us behind our backs. So kids don't have, in other words, an adult would say, I'm not going to put my name up. Why would I want to open myself up to hearing someone thinks I'm fat? I mean, I just wouldn't want to hear that every day. Very so, but these kids aren't thinking about it that way. They're thinking, so they don't have self-control. They don't have self-control. They don't have self-discipline. They will set themselves up for bad things to happen because they don't do that sequential thinking. They need us until their brains are ready to do that sequential thinking. Kids in college don't do this stuff. They just don't. They might, write some funny, silly stuff. And believe me, I've had my students take their phones out in my classroom because they're texting right in front of me while I'm talking after I've said, put your phones away. And so one day I said, you know what, everybody take your phone out. Right now, take your phone out. I want everybody to go around them and read me the last text message that you got. And guess what they were? What's up? Meet me at lunch? Here's my sandwich. That's what they were posting on Instagram, okay? In some ways, when kids get to college, they are a little, they sort of past that neediness for the attention factor. That because they've matured, they've gotten past that. But these kids, high school and middle school kids are just in the thick of it, which they're just not ready to shut it off yet. They need our help to do that. Okay, so Telegram, Wicker, and Confide are these brand new sites. I don't know that much about them, but they're also more of these confidential messaging services. So none of them should be on your kid's phone. So if you see them, they shouldn't be there. Okay, Chat Roulette and Omegle. These are not apps. These are sites that kids go to. They are basically live sex shows. So I had a parent call me the other day. This is her 8th grade daughter from a lovely family, lovely kids. Okay, here's how Omegle Chat Roulette works. You could go home and do it yourself right now as soon as you go home. Don't do it. You've been on it? It's gross. I can't even go on it. It's what?
Jon Stewart, The Daily Show, did it.
He did it live?
Well, he did it with Brian Williams of NBC News.
Oh my God. Okay, so here's how it really works. There's probably a clean version. So you go to chatroulette.com, and then it will say who are you looking for? And it'll say 14-year-old boy, or 18-year-old guy, and then you click on that, and there's an 18-year-old guy. Okay. About to, or is, or girls, or and I had 2 stories. One is that this was these 8th grade girls. They're having a sleepover. The mom knows actually I just did an Ask the Expert party with all these moms too, but this mom called me before at this incident. So they were all at her house, and she heard all the kids giggling down the basement. So she went down thinking they were like, I wonder what they're laughing about. And she went down, and there on somebody's, it was on an iPad, or I don't know what it was on, this guy was sitting on his bed in front of the girls. And the girls were like, and they were sort of grossed out, but at the same time very titillated and the reason, it's just gross, but it's dangerous because this guy could be saying, and again, he can see them and they can see them. Yeah, it's a two-way street. It's a video chat. It's live video chat. So the guys could be saying, so where do you girls all live? And the girl's like, we live in Beverly, like really near the ocean, like a block away. These are kids. They're not thinking things through. They're just thinking the whole thing's funny. They're not doing it for any sexual reason themselves. It's like going to a peep show. I mean, that's really what it's like. I know you're all going, oh my God, I hate this. Why do I come tonight? So here's what you're going to have to do. So here's some other, and another huge thing, I don't have this on here because it's more of a general thing, is just porn in general. Boys on their smartphones are downloading very, very graphic, misogynistic, icky bad porn, okay? Because they can, okay? Because they have their smartphones, their iPads, and their iTouches, and it's not the family computer in your living room. So here's a story that a mom called me last week about. She has, this kid was maybe 6th or 7th grade. He was on, this was just February vacation. He was on like a community ski trip for a couple of days. Maybe it was a church or temple or I don't know, something where they went away for 3 days. Very well supervised, very well chaperoned. The parents had been told not to let their kids bring any devices on the bus, but all the parents wanted their kids to be able to reach them. So the kids, all had their phones. And so this boy was sitting on the bus with his buddies, right? Because he was going on this trip with his buddies. And some of the boys started to download, started to watch porn on their, their smartphones. And it was the porn I just described to you. And this boy was very upset by it. I don't think he had, been exposed to this before. And so he was uncomfortable, and apparently he tried to move away and change his seat. And then the other boys were going, "Oh, you're such a pussy, you're so gay." They were making fun of him. So he felt like he couldn't move, and it was in his face, literally. So when he got home from the trip, his parents picked him up at the bus and was like, "Oh, how was the trip?" They're all excited. And he burst into tears. And, he told them the story. And he just, he was very, very upset by it because it was, he hadn't been using his phone that way, but every other boy on the bus was using their phone that way. And so the thing is that this whole, and this is how they're using, their smartphones now because they can do it on the way home from school, at somebody's house in the basement, when you're upstairs. It's not like the family computer that's in the living room that they don't have access to. And, the latest research is pretty damning on this stuff, because what they're saying is that boys are accessing this porn so early now, at age 10, 11, and 12, because that's when they're getting their smartphones, and there is Safari, unless you've disabled it or limited what's on there, which I'm going to teach you how to do. And so these are literally the first images that boys are seeing about sex and how you do it and how girls like it. And they are seeing a direct correlation to this early introduction to porn, to the amount of sexual harassment and sexual crimes that you're seeing all over college campus. 1 in 5 girls is dealing with sexual assault. And the kind of stories that I just told you about, those two, the boys are relentless now with, because of what they're seeing on porn. They're like, well, I'll get it from a girl that I know. That's where some of the pressure's coming for boys to then pressure girls to send them pictures, because they're thinking, and they're quite pressuring about it. And girls are unprepared for that kind of pressure. And, and at the base of it is a lot of this porn that these boys are watching. And so when your kids have a smartphone, I'm going to talk about, Verizon has just come out with a brand new, like in the last week, parental controls that cost $5 a month, but it is well worth it. And I'll get to it in a second, but it does allow you then to block sites on your kids' Safari, so they can't go to sites that are over a certain age. And even though, it does say on porn, you have to be over 17, but if they can't get to it in the first place because you've just blocked it, then they won't be able to get on it. So, so these are serious issues that, will affect your teens' behavior, their sexual life and their sexual behavior in the future. And, this is important stuff. This is important stuff. Okay. I think there's some more sites here. Okay, so these are some of the potential negative consequences of social networking. Sexual harassment, which I think I beat that dead horse, right? Okay, we've talked about that. Unrealistic expectations of what boys and girls want. This is a biggie for me. So we've got these kids who, someone was asking before, is this damaging to them? So here's how this can play out. So girls send these naked pictures. They're not thinking, I'm sending a naked picture and then I want to have sex. I mean, it's like the sex piece of it is almost like non-existent. It's really about the titillation and the putting the things out there. But what the girls aren't getting is that once they put out these messages like, or you're town, or you got the big, they would never use that word. Whatever kind of hot talk is going on between them, they do eventually go to parties. Okay, they do eventually get in places where there are going to then be expectations. And if you are a girl who has just sent, who has sent a suggestive picture to a boy, there is going to be an expectation. Hey, man, you said you on yesterday's text, and then this girl is now in a position of having to make a decision about what she's going to do about that. That she has put it out there that, she can be, she can have the biggest potty mouth there is, and then those boys are going to expect her to follow through on her promises. And then those girls, that's where the trauma comes in. Because then, again, they're in a position of that they've not prepared for. They didn't think that was really going to happen. And then they don't know what to do. And then they end up having to do something. Perhaps there's alcohol involved and there's other things. But a lot of it is at the base of some of this early sort of sexually titillating material. Use of text and photos for revenge. This is an important conversation to have with your kids, because this is how a lot of this stuff happens, where like there was a situation that happened in the Midwest last year where, follow me on this one. Okay, there was a girl. She had a crush on a boy. She had a boyfriend. It was middle school. We know what that means, okay? So she had a crush on a boy. They were, boyfriend, girlfriend. He didn't ask. She sent him a naked picture, okay? 2 weeks later, they broke up. Big surprise. Okay, this boy, now this is where it gets a little complicated. This boy was friends with an ex-friend of this girl. Okay, so he was a friend of, it was just a girlfriend, not a girlfriend. And that girl had some big fight with this girl, and they had a friend breakup. Okay, but this boy and this girl now are friends. And this boy has a picture of that girl. He shows it to this girl who hates this girl for whatever reason, and she takes the picture and she says, if you think this girl is a hoe, send it to everybody you know. And so she then sent that picture. So it wasn't the boy who sent the picture, it was the girl who was pissed off. And so the other thing that your kids need to understand is maybe they're sending texts or private messages or sexy pictures to each other because they're in a relationship, okay? But what they don't, this is the not sequential thinking. They need to get, sometime, honey, you might break up with that guy, or he might break up with you. And that sexy text that you wrote to him, and he's pissed off because you're dating his boyfriend now. Maybe his, they date. She's with some new boy. This boy is hurt and rejected, and he wants to get back at you. He's going to take what you wrote to him, and he's going to send it to everybody else and really try to embarrass you because he's mad at you. And kids don't even think about that. They don't even think of that idea of that those pictures and texts could be used completely out of context months down the line. They don't understand that. And you need to talk about that with them. I want you to understand that you might, again, you're not saying, have you sent a naked picture to your boyfriend, but you're saying you need to know that, you guys are not going to be together for life. You've already had 3 boyfriends and you're only in 7th grade. We know the longevity of these things, and you can say, you know what happens when you get really mad at a friend. I've seen you, you get really mad, and you might, decide to use something that your boyfriend sent to you. These are all different kinds of conversation starters that you need to, it's not just don't send it, it's like, these are the consequences that your kids are not thinking about. Legal action. There was a situation that happened out here in southwestern Mass a couple of years ago where a 13-year-old boy, a girl had sent him a picture, because she had a crush on him, and he's 13. It was his first naked picture. He was like, oh my God. So, it's not like, oh, this is inappropriate, I'll delete it immediately. He's 13 years old, and I'm sure this part of the brain went off and like, oh my God, I got a picture of a naked girl, and it's somebody I know. And so, he sent it to whoever he sent it to. And that was that. And he left his phone one day on the cafeteria table, as kids, how many of your kids have lost their phone 10 times? Because they're forgetful and distracted. And so he left it on the cafeteria table, and the principal was doing the cleanup, doing the cafeteria cleanup, found the phone, was trying to find out who it belonged to, found the pictures, again, these are stories, use these stories. They found the picture on the phone of this girl, somehow figured out that it had been sent on. And this is the sad case with this kid. This is the first, I think, the first case of this. At 13, he was arrested and convicted as because he was distributing porn, whatever it is, distributing porn. And he became a convicted sex felon, 13 years old. And for the next 18 years of his life, this was, I'm sure, a lovely, sweet little kid. It was just like, oh my God, I got a nick. I mean, it starts from this, but can get sour pretty quickly. So now, until he's, do the math, 18 and 13, so 33. So until he's 33, he is now considered a sex felon, sex offender. So there are really serious legal consequences, like in all those stories that I told you before, where the kids, the recent in Walpole, where the police are in on it now. There's a court case coming up. I don't know what they'll end up doing. One of the kids is over 18. I suspect he's going to be in big trouble. I think the other kids, they'll kind of do some sort of a slap in the wrist, but hope that it scares everybody else in the system. But, you never know. You just never know. And so your kids don't get that piece of it. They just think it's fun. What's the big deal? Okay? And so scour the internet, find the articles, download them, go to my blog. I got a million stories on there, but it'll be like another sexting story, yet another sexting story. I have a lot of them on there. Download them and read them to your kids. Make them read them. Say, I have to at least know that I'm telling you. You may choose to ignore it, but I'm going to at least, and the eyes are going to go back in the head, and they say, I know, if I send an extra picture. And that's what you want. That's how you know you've gotten to them. If you can't just have one conversation. You have to have conversations all the time. Every time they go out to a sleepover. No, taking pictures with your friends tonight. Don't Skype naked to those boys at that point. You need to say, you need to be saying and giving the messages every time your kids are going to be in a social situation, because the likelihood that something, could happen and then have a consequence is big. It's big. School suspension or expulsion. And that gets put on their college, their high school record. And, when it comes time to wanting to go to the military or go into college or get a summer camp job, we're going with children. Again, there are, and another thing is you need to teach your kids, that whatever they put up there, when people are looking at them from a distance, whether it's a college admissions person or a camp director who's looking for a job, and they've got crazy stuff on their Instagram or on their Twitter. Remember, anybody can look at Instagram and Twitter. If they've got something on there that's outrageous and they're looking to get a summer job or an internship or something, that's going to come back and haunt them. So, and then most importantly, extreme feelings of shame and embarrassment. And they will be in denial about it. But the more in denial you see your kids saying, what's the big deal? To me, that's a sign that there's a lot of shame going on. And that's why it's important for you to say the words and to have conversations with your kids like, this mom I worked with recently with this naked picture story. I said to her, I want you to go back to your daughter, and I want you to say, would you go to a party and take your clothes off at a party? And then the daughter, of course, said, no, oh God, no, that's disgusting. I would never do that, right? Because you would never do that. And, and then, I'd sort of instructed the mom to say, well, there really isn't a difference, but that's what the problem is. The problem with all this social networking is that it's not personal, okay? They're not there when that phone gets open. They're not there when that boy is looking at that picture. They're not there when that language, they're not even hearing the language out loud. That's why I want you to say the language out loud. Because when they hear you say out loud, that will make them so nauseous that will be a deterrent. Inappropriate language means nothing to them. But when you say, I want them to hear what those words sound like. I want them to hear how crass and disrespectful they sound. And, but if they don't hear it and they're only reading it, that's what the problem is now. Kids don't feel shame. They're not feeling shame because they're not there when, you know, and I said to the mom, say to, you know, I said, I want you to say to your daughter, how do you feel knowing that your boys that you know are to your picture now? That's what they're doing now. That's how they're using that. I mean, they're not just, you know, what do you think they're doing with it? They're not just like looking at it, they're using it, right? And, you know, so you want to make it as gross as you can. You know, don't paint a pretty picture here, right? Do not paint a pretty picture. You want to tell them, here's what it is. You want to say that out loud. I want them to feel shame and embarrassment because that's what gets people to stop doing things that are bad for them. And if they don't have anybody saying anything that makes them feel that way, they won't feel that way. Okay. All right. So here, let's get into some of the, you know, so the specifics. This is actually old because I just found this new thing out about, first of all, let me just say, no phones go to bed. I'm sure that must be on here somewhere. Okay, but first of all, no cell phones should be in your, cell phones, iPads, iTouches, iEverythings should be out of your kid's room, you know, before bed. One is because the backlighting, the green light that's on those screens, so even if they say, oh, I'm just playing a game or I'm watching a movie, it tricks the brain, this is new research, it tricks the brain into thinking it should be wide awake. So the lighting on those screens is, you know, why we're raising now a new generation of kids who have all sleep disorders. They can't get to sleep. Then they turn on their devices thinking that well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So then they go back to their devices and watch TV on the device. Watching on television's fine, but it's the lighting that does something as it, you know, goes into the brain. So really bad. That's one reason. The other reason is because that's where all the drama happens. All the drama happens in the bedrooms at night. You're asleep, door is closed. So this should just be a no-brainer for everybody. Now, because Verizon, it used to be when kids when you gave your kids just the old-fashioned flip phones, that you could program them to shut off, so you wouldn't have to get into a power struggle with your kid every day. Give me your phone, just 5 minutes. Give me your phone, 5 minutes. And so, but now, and you could never do this with a smartphone. You can now, okay, because it's going in and having to get into that fight of give me the phone, take it away, give me the phone. Now, magically, you can make it, and I'm sure others, I only know about Verizon, but you should check into your other carriers. But Verizon just started the service. You go to verizon.net, and then you go to parental controls, and it costs $5 a month. It's well worth the money. And the options, I was just tickled pink and so excited about the options because I feel like, because I was one of those people who said don't get your kid a smartphone until they graduate from college. But now it's like, okay, if you're going to get your kid a smartphone, then you have to do this because that will give you the control back. So the first thing that you can do is you can program when you want it on and when you want it off. So, you know, your kids are in middle school. They should not have unlimited access time to their phone. That is when the addiction starts. And now, rather than saying, give me your phone, you're going to be able to program it and say, like, it should never be on during school. Your phones, you should have them shut off. If they need to call you, they can go to the office. Because what's happening is that kids are using their phones, and it's they're hidden in their pockets, but they're thinking about the cute picture they're going to send on Instagram, the funny thing they're going to write in their class. So in class, where their attention should be on learning, now their attention is on, as soon as they get out of this class, I'm going to post something on Instagram, I'm going to put something on, I'm going to put, they're planning the next post. This is how addicted they are, okay? So if they don't have access to that now, the phone is shut off. So maybe it's on for 45 minutes in the morning or a half an hour. They can check in with their friends, who's wearing what's going on. Then, as soon as they walk in the building, 8:15 or 7:30, whatever time, it should be shut off. If you need to reach them, you call the office, okay? The other thing that happens is that parents and kids get into all kind of texting fights during school, where kids like, I want to go to so-and-so's after school. You can't go after school. You have to come home and do your homework. But I don't have any homework. Yes, you do. And then I hear about these fights. And again, that's distracting your child from doing the business of school. They're already distracted enough. They don't need your help by allowing them to have their phone on during school. There is nothing. We all lived 6 hours in a day. We see our friends in the halls. We see our friends in the cafeteria. Shut it off. Okay, and they'll get mad at you, but guess what? It's they can't change that. Once you go and get those parent controls in, you're set. So the phone should be off. Then fine. It can be on from 3 to 7, something like that. They can have their after school time with it, and then it should be shut off for 2 hours during the night at least, whether they have homework or not. Okay, this is not just about doing their homework, but the truth of it is, they did a big research study in Stanford, and your brain cannot handle more than one kind of stimulation at a time. So if you have kids who are doing their homework and they're on their smartphones and they're not learning what they need to learn. They're not taking in the information. And I just graded 62 midterms today, and I want to throw up. I'm just, I couldn't make these tests any easier. I've dumbed them down as far as I'm going to go. And I've given, yep.
Can you talk a little about computers? I mean, so the smartphone, yeah, you can take away, but being here in Beverly High School, every kid has to have their laptop, they have to do their homework on it, they will have it in the phone, in their room, they will have it in the room at night, they will do their homework at night. So it's just not realistic to say after 10, I take the laptop and don't get it back until you go to school.
Well, I think, there's a difference between a 12 and a 13-year-old and a 16 or a 17-year-old. So I think that, okay, 14 years old. I think you say you have to get your homework done by 10 o'clock. I think that there is a point at which you have to, if your kid is a procrastinator, that's not a good thing anyway. That that they have to be, but the role is the laptops are going out. Whatever time your kid needs to get to bed and have some downtime. Again, these are times where you do have to set some limits about this, because it is he's on his laptop doing homework, but he's probably also chatting, and he's he's on some other sites, and he's doing multiple things at the same time, and. I just think it's just saying that, maybe it's 11, but there has to be a point. Your kids should not be staying up till midnight at 14. They're not going to be able to be awake in school. I know this stuff is hard to do this, to say your kids are going to get mad at you. And they are, but you're trying to teach them for the future, because I'm telling you, I have these kids now, and they are so addicted. They can't. When I talk about it at the beginning of the semester, they say, I'm so addicted, I can't imagine shutting anything off. And they all say to me, I wish my parents, and they have said this, I'm not making this up, I wish my parents, now in hindsight, I wish my parents had set more limits with me when I was younger, because now I'm completely addicted. So I'm not. You'll have to do what you have to do, but you can take. At least the phones can be shut off. Maybe they've got their laptops on, but they can't do everything on their laptops. Some of these, yeah.
I was just going to say, there's just real quickly, I'm sure you know things too about this, but there's a thing called Canine Safe Search, which is a proxy server that you install onto your computer, and it filters all their web traffic, and it blocks everything. They can't go into Google, they can't go into YouTube, can't go into Facebook. Even the ads are blocked, the porn ads that pop up like that, and then any website they go to, you have to put in a password for them to get to it. So if my son says, I want to go to YouTube, I'll say, okay. So I'll go to YouTube, and Canine will pop up and say, you're blocked. And I can go, and there's a time limit, and I say, I can give you 15 minutes of YouTube access, and I put the password in, and then he has YouTube for 15 minutes. But it also blocks inappropriate material on YouTube by filtering out those videos.
Well, that's what happens on this new Verizon thing too. Is that's what's so great about this, is you can block. They can still get Safari, but they can be blocked. You can block. You should take everything off their phones and start from scratch, so that you say you can have Instagram, you can have Twitter. No, yep. Yeah.
You can replace Safari you can eliminate Safari on the phone and replace it with that tool.
Yeah, I know. Okay, and this is called Canine Safe Search. Yeah, I'm not the major tip, but that's a Canine Search. That's a great. I guess the general message is this: your kids are not ready to take on the amount of distraction that is out there for them. That's just the truth. Okay. Your kids will get mad at you. They will think you're being punitive. And your words to them is, I want you to be as successful in life as you can be. I know you need to get a good night's sleep. I know that it's tempting to want to talk to your friends at night and rather than saying, well, this is the way it is, and if you don't like it, you're moving to another house. And what you can say is, I get how important this stuff is. You're going to join with them. I get this is all really important to you. I want you to have fun with your friends. I want you to fool around with them on Instagram and Twitter. I don't have a problem with that, but there is that, and then there's sleep, and then there's safety. And those are the things that and if you hate me for now, oh well. You know, your kids will get over it. They still might huck you about it. Yeah.
So we do all this. Our kids are 10, 10, and 13, and we definitely do all this stuff. But my concern, and I get how dangerous this is, I have 3 boys. The studies are saying boys don't start really, the brain doesn't mature until...
Well, it's not just boys. That's just that's everybody. That's everybody. That's not just boys.
Okay. How do we teach it's very easy to be the cop, and frankly, as a parent, it's way easy to do that to keep them safe. They have to learn to self-regulate.
They will when as I'm saying, as it's graduated, okay? So you guys are mostly middle school parents here. So, you know, again, you give them what they're ready for in the same way. We don't let 12-year-olds drive a car because we understand that they aren't ready to drive a car at 12. They don't have good judgment. The risk taking is too bad. You know, we get where they are. So I'm saying, you know, get them to the point where they can do homework without distraction, so that it doesn't become a regular part of their life. The problem is, it's about ritual. It is about developing ritual and routine. So if they get it in their head that there are times during the night that I don't have that stuff on, that will eventually become integrated. So that then, when it comes time where the phone is on, they'll have that. Oh, you know, I'm used to 2 hours a day of not being on the phone. So you're understanding that at 12 and 13 and 14 and 15, they're still in the beginning throes of puberty. They're in the beginning throes of developing identity. They're beginning throes, and they're not ready to then take on the disciplinaries. They're just trying to deal with getting their emotions settled. So it's graduated, right? So by the time they're in junior year in high school, senior year in high school, they should be there. You know, then they're going to be more on their own, and they're going to have to deal with it. But you're going to have been giving them all these lessons up until that point, and you're going to be adding things in as you see they can manage them, right? So when you see that they're starting to have good habits, then maybe you add something else in there. But certain things don't need to be there at all. Snapchat is just dangerous. I mean, there are just some things. You know, again, you know, do you keep loaded guns in your house? I mean, it's kind of like that. It's like, you know, kids are risk takers by nature in adolescence, and why do we deliberately want to set them up to fail? So, you know, again, I'm not saying this is what you have to do. I'm just telling you recommendations if you're looking for your kids at this age where they cannot manage all of the stuff and get their homework done and get the sleep that they need and be able to be a participation in school the next day. So it's not an all or nothing. You can pick what you can choose, but at least the options are there now. They never used to be there with the smartphones, and so kids had access to everything. So you should have your access to your kid's phone. By the way, password. If your kid says to you, "This is my phone, you can't have my password," then they can't have a phone. Okay? This is part of those. This is your phone, ultimately. It is a device that you are giving them to, provide them with some entertainment and interest in life. But it is not an entitlement. It's not like, it's not like every kid gets their license, every kid gets a phone. No, you're giving them, it is a privilege to have this phone. It's expensive. It costs you money. And I think that your kids have no idea about that piece of it. One recommendation I have is to make your kids go on your phone bill with them every month. This is just because everything about what they do is so mindless that one of the privileges of having a phone is I want you to sit with me so you can see how many texts you're using every month, just so you can see. I'm not changing it. I just want you to know that this month you texted 11,000 times. I just want you to know this piece of information. You are making them aware. It's just like it's like money. Kids just like, give me money. I need money for this. I need money for this. I need money. They have no sense of what the money is. If you give them an ATM card, and you put on a finite amount of money, and they start taking it out, all of a sudden it's Saturday night. There's nothing left. Like they start to learn. Oh, I can't take, I can't be spending all that money and then come Saturday night I have nothing left to go to the movies. Oh well, right? You're teaching them, and I think that, these phones have become mindless activities. And what I'm trying to teach is mindfulness. Those are life skills, to be mindful. Mindful of time, mindful of amount, those kinds of things. These are important values and lessons to be teaching your kids. I'm going to move on here. Okay, this is, to me, take your phones out, take a screenshot of this. Okay, these to me are rules that your kids should have in front of them in their room, okay? So that subliminally, when they're lying on their bed and doing whatever, and their eye happens to catch this, because this is helping them do the thinking things through. Can this post be misinterpreted? Does this post intentionally hurt somebody's feelings? Does this post give out too much information? Can any photos or videos posted of me come back and shoot me in the foot? These are basically the 4 major takeaways for all the stuff that I've been talking about tonight, but you're going to forget to tell them all the time. And if they are somewhere where they see this on a regular basis, now they're going to roll their eyes, and they're going to say, I'm going to take it down. You can't put that up. Okay? And you're going to say, if you want a phone, iTouch, iPad, this, that, these are going to stay up in your room. I don't care if you never look at it. I don't care if your eyes never cross the page, right? It's not a challenge. It's just that's part of the responsibility of having a phone, is to be able to make you aware that sometimes these kinds of issues will come up on your phone. And if by chance it happens to catch you and catches your eye, all the better. And if you never, they'll see, it will be subliminal. It's like the ads you see, on the T, up on the, on the windows above the thing. These are messages that it's impossible to give every day because, you get a life. It's enough that you have to keep track of all this crap. It's like, you're constantly putting out fires. This is exhausting. I'm exhausted. This is exhausting stuff. I feel so bad for you. This is, I did not have to deal with this. My daughter at 31 got her cell phone senior year in high school. That's when they got them. No one had a laptop. You got your laptop when you went off to college. So you are the first you are our pioneers. There's no research yet. There's no, you're sort of you're the research group right here, and so you don't have, there's not many books written on this. It's not like it's like Dr. Spock, I'm telling you it. This is, there's not that much out there. And unfortunately, we're just learning as we're going along here. And what we're learning isn't so great, right? And so maybe maybe parents will learn this and then kids won't get, cell phones until they get to high school. Maybe we'll go backwards. That would be my dream. So I hope that you will, you have them on your, I forgot you have these, so you don't have to write them down. Okay, so these are really important. Okay. Teen-proofing the phone. No cell phones to bed. Clean up social networking posts. Again, especially if you have older students who are looking at colleges or summer internships or, anything they put on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, kids will friend anybody. So there's a big article in the New York Times in the fall. Most colleges now will go and check, go check kids' Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And if they see stuff they don't like, that could be, so you need to teach your kids to do this. Monitor together. Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, you can pretty much you can just go and look on their own. I prefer you look at things together because it's a way of starting a conversation. Even if it's, something that's a little off color, instead of just saying, get that off your page, that you can't, I tell you can't, rather than going to that punitive place, just saying like, so tell me what that's about. I don't get it. Tell me what's going on with that. Try to engage them in conversation about things that you don't understand on those pages. It's a way of getting to know who they are, and and helping them to sort of figure out what's appropriate and what isn't. We talked about this before. Help with situations they do not know how to handle. Anticipate situations. Give them some, let's figure out what you can do when you're in it. Some boy asked for this, or this girl asked for this, or someone asked you to post, someone's bullying another kid online. I get this is going to happen to you. Open your eyes. I get this is going to happen. Let's figure out some strategies so maybe when you're in it, we can figure it out together. I have to take that messaging limits off for younger teens. But certainly, if you do have a 4th or a 5th grader, and you have given them a phone, You absolutely should have messaging limits on the phone. Absolutely. There is nothing that a 4th and a 5th grader has to say. Okay? And it is just starting that addiction that much earlier. Okay? I don't even see why kids in 4th and 5th grade, but fine, get them the phone. But if you're going to get them a smartphone, literally shut everything off. You know, if they want to just be able to have the phone because it looks good and they're not embarrassed, they shut down Safari, shut off no apps at all unless you okay them. And, you know, it's not just about, don't let them willy-nilly download 4 gazillion games on their phone. Why do you want them to be spending their time playing all these games? That's time away from the family. That's time they're not spending with you when they have time. They need you. They need you. And these devices, for me, are making you separate from them. Because, and the truth of it is, you've got your own that you're dealing with. And I think that's the next slide, I'm hoping. Oh, there was no other slide. Oh, okay, well, the final slide that should be on here is modeling, 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 modeling. Look at your own use of your tools. Are you constantly checking your email when you're out to dinner with your kids? Are you checking, you know, are you constantly on your phone when you are driving your car? When you have adolescents, you should never be on your phone in the car when your kids are with you. I don't care what you do when the kids aren't with you. But if you are going to be having driving teens in the next 3 or 4 years, they better not see you on your phone. Because the message they're going to get is, if you can do it, I can do it. Okay? And there's, how could they not think that? So I suggest that literally you say out loud, honey, make sure my phone's shut off. I don't want to be disturbed while I'm driving the car. Like, I want you to say it out loud. I don't want you to just not use the phone. I want you to create a voice in their head that says, honey, will you shut off the phone? I want to make sure I have full attention. Whatever the thing is that you come up. And have them shut your phone off. That's an action. That is a mind-body connection. They're hearing something, they're doing something, so that when they get in the car, they are not always associating driving and talking. It's like classical conditioning. And I also suggest that if you have a driving kid who's maybe 15, 16, about to get their learner's permit, that whenever they get in the car, if they are so motivated to get their license and learner's permit, that once, I say start doing it at 15:9, that when they sit in the car, they must sit in the front seat, no phone. Because you have got to get them associated with sitting in a car and not being on the phone. That is, I mean, you know, you've seen all the research about how dangerous it is. It's just, you know, it's just dangerous. And so if you expect that you're going to have a kid who's been on their phone in the car all years and years and years and years, and then it's time for them to get their license, and all of a sudden you're going to say, not allowed to use your phone in the car, it's like cold turkey. They're not going to be able to do it. So so that's part of the motivation. If you want to get your license, here's the rule. You sit in the front seat and the phone is off. So that you get prepared for those, you know, for when you start sitting in a front seat, so you don't have that association of sitting in the front seat and having a phone. Very, very important. So model, and, you know, are you on your tools? Do you, like, you know, have dinner and then immediately you're on the phone, you're on your computer, you know, where are you in your own use? And what kind of model are you providing for your kids? So if you are, you know, 24/7 on your, you know, you have dinner and you're in your little office and you're on your phone all night and you're on your computer all night, you know, that they're seeing that that's the way this family works. So you just have to be aware of now what you're doing, because everything that you're doing, if you're at your kid's game, if you're watching one of their games and you're on your phone while they're playing, because it's like boring probably half the time. I didn't have a sports kid, so I don't know. And they happen to look up. And just at the point that they look up, they see you and your head down as you're on your phone. You're sending a message. You're not important to me. So, you know, these are what you do with your tools is as important as what they do with theirs. So, as I said, you are our pioneers. You are setting the tone for generations to come. Have I made you feel really guilty? It's that Jewish part of me. So I hope you got a bunch of tools that you can take away with you tonight. And don't be scared. And most importantly, don't be scared of your kids. Yeah.
So for those of us who want to
Yeah.
Like, get the phone out of the bedroom.
Yeah.
Like, look, can you give us some vocabulary?
Yeah.
And the second thing is, can you please speak to sleepovers and phones that have cancer?
Okay. So for the smartphones, now that they have this new thing where you can have it shut off, you might not have to go into the bedrooms and get the phones anymore. That's what I think that's a big thing, to have it shut off. Then you don't, otherwise you get into a power struggle. But if you don't want to use those parental controls, then what I would say is we're together going to discuss, it's not, you need to get a good night's sleep. That's the deal. You need to get a good night's sleep. And I know that when it's on vibrate, kids are texting you all night long. If there's an emergency, someone's going to try to reach you. I get it. I know how important your phone is to you, and it's important that you get a night's sleep. So we're going to come up with a time that you're going to give me your phone. If you choose to fight with me every night about this, okay, and here's the language you can use. If you choose to, because you can say, I'm not going to argue. This is not going to be an every night argument, okay? And don't put it in the kitchen, by the way. This should be in your bedroom if you take the phone. If you're going to fight with me every night, then I'm going to choose to take out your smartphone and swap it for an old-fashioned phone that I can shut off. So that's your choice. So we can get into this. Let's get into a good routine about it. 10 o'clock, I come in, good night, I love you, you give me the phone, done. If you start with 5 more minutes, there's no chances on this. I'm telling you right now, then we switch out for another phone that I could shut off. But with this new Verizon, and I'm sure the other phone carriers do the same thing, you can have it shut off at the time that you agree on, and then that becomes a non-issue, because I hate the power struggle piece of it. So that's that. And then the other thing was, what was it? Sleepovers. Oh, sleepovers. Here's the thing. A lot of parents say, I tell the kids they have to give me their phones at sleepovers. And, I like kids to have their phones at sleepovers, and here's why. Because things go on at sleepovers that oftentimes kids are uncomfortable with. Kids bring booze into sleepovers. They want to sneak out at sleepovers. They want to, get on chat roulette and Omegle. And at least if they have they're not going to go to a home phone and call their parents. Like, they would never do that imaginary audience. But if they had their cell phone and they were just texting, but they were texting you, and then you called the family and said, I have an emergency situation. Here's the trick about sleepovers. You have to stay awake, okay? If you have a house and you're up on the 3rd floor and the kids are in the basement, you can't just go to bed at 11 o'clock and think all is well in the world. Especially with teenagers, you need to set your alarm, and you say to the kids, I'm up and down all night long. Got to pee a million times. I'm starving. So I just hope I don't bother you. And then at 11:30, at 1, at 2:30, and I'm sorry, but I would much rather have you be, and that will be a deterrent for those kids to do anything that bad. They certainly won't sneak out. They won't do drink and booze if they know you're coming down to check on them. And, you can, and you can talk to your kid beforehand and say, hey, I don't want any, you can say what you can say. I don't want any porn going on down in my basement, while I'm asleep. That's about as much as you can do. But the biggest thing is be a presence. Don't just say goodnight at 11 o'clock, and then that's the end of it, especially if they're in the basement and you're up here. It's just not safe.
I was just going to add, as a host for
Yeah.
sleepover, I always tell the boys, give me the phones like 10 o'clock. I collect them
Yep.
all, and I say, you'll get it right back in the morning.
But are there computers downstairs and other things? Okay, all right. Again, sometimes it's just, I think that's great, and if the kids buy it, that's fine. I just feel like sometimes things do go on at sleepovers that parents aren't aware of, and then kids feel stuck there and they can't get themselves out, so it becomes kind of a safety issue. But, I mean, if you can do it, and that's great.
12 and 13-year-olds.
Yeah, so they're right. They're still eating just junk food. Yeah.
Have another Dorito.
We're going to be on the lean side of allowing permission.
Say again?
We're going to be on the lean side and not give as much, I think, going forward. And
Yep.
how do you, like, my family dealt with, or my kids hang out with a lot of people, and how do you have the conversations with other parents that, that's, I think, a tougher conversation than having with your kids, because you have no control.
Yeah, no, you don't. And also your kid's going to be so mad at you. And you're going to say, and instead of saying, well, that's just the way it is, you can say, I get your friends have stuff. And, we just don't feel it's safe. Our parents do different things. I know that feels bad to you. I know you hate us sometimes. You can also call other parents and say, I'm just giving you a heads up about what we've decided to do. That would be the way I would say it. I would say, here's a heads up. You could email them. You can say, here's a heads up. You know, I can see the kids have been getting into a lot of porn, or the kids are, we've decided to just kind of take that stuff off the phone. Just wanted to give you a heads up that that's what we're doing. And sometimes parents, if they get, not that we think you should do it too, no judgment, just a heads up. And some parents, when they hear that other parents are doing the same thing, gives them the freedom to do it too. So that would be my way of dealing it. It was just saying, just giving you a heads up what we've decided to do. And, you know, sometimes parents will be like, oh, well, if they're doing that, I'm going to do it too. That at least, you know, 2 kids are doing the same thing and they won't get mad at us. All right, y'all. Go home and take care of your phones. Thank you. You're so welcome. So the books are out there if anybody wants one. Use my blog. Come to my book signing in Peabody. At North Shore Books, there's a flyer out there. It would be so fun to see you all. Thank you.